If you got tight glutes, and not in the cool way, then you need to perform exercises that work the glutes in a more lengthened position. Because the glutes perform hip external rotation and extension, going in the opposite direction, flexion and internal rotation, can increase length on these tissues, reducing tension. I start to see just how tight your glutes are with this move here. Hang on to something in front of you, like a barbell in this case. Or if you're at home, you can put your hands on the table or hang on to a door. Put a ball or foam roller or yoga block between the knees. Keep your feet flat and heel heavy. Act like you're about to sit in a chair, shooting the hips back, but also letting the knees bend at the same time. If you get it right, you'll feel the glutes and hamstrings working, but in a more lengthened position. Perform a slow 5-count breath in through the nose and a soft 5-count breath out through the mouth. This helps with the pelvic floor activity needed to open up the hips and get some length back to the glutes. Hold this position for 3 sets of 60 seconds. To know which exercise sequence is going to be best for you at reducing that tightness in your glutes, you got to keep it real and ask yourself one question about that exercise. Was it too difficult, or was it, too easy? It's in the too difficult camp if you felt mostly your back working and not your hips, or you couldn't hold the position for 60 seconds. And it was, too easy if you felt your glutes working, but it wasn't cooking you, or you could have held that position for way more than 60 seconds for 3 total sets. Now, depending on which camp you're in, we can go through an exercise sequence that works best for you at getting your glutes to chill. If that starter move was too difficult, you need to drive internal rotation from a more externally rotated position in the hips. This reduces the degree of stretch, but it still works in the range of motion that you need. The easiest place to start is lying on your stomach with one arm and leg out to the side. Place a pad underneath the lower rib cage on that side. Don't make the mistake of raising the out leg too high up. You want it just out to the side so that way your inner knee is resting on the ground. You're going to press the inner knee, the base of the elbow, and the base of the wrist into the ground at about a 2 to 3 out of 10 effort. This is going to drive a little bit of internal rotation in the hip from an externally rotated position, which will create some length on the glutes. In this position, take a slow 5-count breath in through the nose and a soft 5-count breath out through the mouth, keeping that 2 to 4 out of 10 pressure throughout on those 3 points. If you get it right, you'll notice that your back area and even your hips will be getting bigger on the inhale and smaller on the exhale. Hold this position for 3 sets of 60 seconds per side. You can progress the difficulty of this by increasing the range of hip flexion and internal rotation. Lie on your back with your feet together and your knees apart. A yoga ball is going to rest in between the knees. Get a little bit of knee pressure into the ball without losing the foot contact. If you notice that your back is arched and it's not flat on the ground, you can straighten your knees a little bit. This will shift your weight backwards, so that way you're not arching through the back, which can limit the effect of the exercise. Take your arms, go palms up like you're holding a casserole dish, and reach them out in front of you at about 110 degrees of shoulder flexion. Take a slow 5-count breath in through the nose and a soft 5-count breath out through the mouth, only moving about 75% of your air. During the first exhale, reach your arms up at that angle, but only go about halfway. Maintain that arm position and keep breathing for 3 to 4 sets of 60 seconds. Then, to drive even more flexion and internal rotation, you're going to use this box squat variation. Get on the edge of a box or a higher chair and turn your feet out slightly. Again, we're going to start in external rotation, but when we sit to the box, the back of the hips has to open up, which is what creates the internal rotation and reduces glute tension. Soften the knees. Hold a weight out in front of you by taking a breath of air in through your nose and then exhaling and reaching forward. Stay heavy on the heels. From here, you want to do a quiet inhale through the nose and sit down on the box, letting your knees bend. Do this for about a 3 to 5 count in terms of your pace. Then you're going to exhale and come back up to the start without straightening the knees aggressively. That's one of the biggest mistakes. Also watch to make sure that you keep the arms out in front of you at 90 degrees of shoulder flexion. A lot of people cheat this by arching their back and raising the arms up. If you're arching your back, that's tipping the hips forward, which doesn't allow you to get the adequate stretch into the glutes. Another mistake people make is as they sit, they lose the hinge position and they rock back. If you do this and you're rocking backwards, that creates a relative posterior tilt of the pelvis, which actually increases glute tension, so you're not going to get the benefits. Keep a hinged posture as you go down and then come back up, keeping the knees soft, and go slow. Do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps with this move. Now let's suppose you're in the other camp. You did that first hingy squat move and you still notice that there's tension in your glutes, or it didn't challenge you. If that's you, then you have to go even further into hip flexion and internal rotation to maximize the stretch on the glutes, which will relieve tension. The first place to start is with this toe touch to squat variation. You'll want to get on a ramp or just elevate your heels if you don't have that piece of equipment. Keep the feet flat but stay heavy on the heels. Bend forward to touch your toes. Do a slow 5-count breath in through the nose. As you're doing this, you want to drop down into a full squat. This is going to put you in maximal hip flexion, which is going to place a ton of length on the glutes. Grab your toes and then exhale. As you exhale for about a 5 count, you want to begin straightening the knees. When you straighten the knees out and the hips come up, this biases internal rotation. So you hit the glute bias that you need with each portion of the movement. Inhale, squat down, exhale, come on up. You're gonna do 3 sets of 10 with this move. Adding a single leg component to the movement can buy us even more range because the pelvis has to rotate, so it gives you a little bit better length with the more proximal or pelvic attachment of the glutes. You can do this by getting into a split stance with both knees soft. Weight is gonna be in the opposite arm. Keep the knees still and without letting them straighten out. You're gonna inhale. As you inhale, you wanna push the hips back as far as you can. Once your hips stop moving backwards, the internal rotation component, you then want to bend your knees, keeping that hinged position. That's the hip flexion component that gets length to the glutes. Don't make the mistake of tucking your hips underneath you and becoming more upright, because if you do that, you're gonna end up creating more length through the lower back area because that's what brings you more vertical. That's not gonna get the length change that we want in the glutes. Keep a hinged position as you go down. Then you're gonna exhale and return to the start position. Inhale, hips back, and then squat, exhale, come back up. Do 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps per side with that move. Then the absolute finisher is this split squat hold on steroids. For this, you want to start in half kneeling, making sure you got roughly a straight line from your ear all the way down to your knee. You want to get some sort of stick to hang on to. Trust me, you're gonna need it. Shift your weight forward just a little bit so you're heavy on the front heel and ball of the foot. Press both of those points down so you barely come off the ground. You should feel your front quad and hamstring cooking. If you notice most of the work is on the back leg, simply shift your weight forward by pushing through the back big toe. This will light up the front leg and it's basically getting you to work the quads and hamstrings while keeping the glutes in a more stretched or lengthened position. Stay here for 3 to 4 sets of 60 seconds per side and proceed to hate life. Now, if you really want to fix this for good, you need to improve your overall hip mobility, which this video will show you how to do lickety split.